welcome back to another Hasty Terrain Maker video. What we're going to be doing here is hot water streams or brooks with glue or paint underneath and hot glue on top, and no other paint on top of the stream, unlike the other video. I did do this video a few days ago, but while I was doing the last tutorial on cobblestones, I ran out of room on my phone and accidentally deleted the wrong video. I thought I was deleting the previous one I had already posted, so I've got to go back and redo this video. So here we go. Okay, so the first thing I like to do here is I like to take a blue paint and a black paint. So here's my black. I like to take a bit of a darker blue here, and I put it on my parchment, a lot of blue, just a little dab of black. I want to try to get it more, and I don't mix it completely all the way in. I get the black and blue I want, that I leave around the edges some blue. And what I try to do is get a depth look of blue-black that'll go underneath as a base. And I start painting on my parchment here. I just give it a quick first go, and I try to give my water, I want to paint in where I want my water to start, and I'm going to make it thinner in some areas and thicker in some areas, because a water stream brook isn't always just, you know, one size, and could have gave it a lot more definition and bend to it, but I'm just trying to go for a quick tutorial here. So I'm going to get my blue down. So what happens here is this color, when you put your hot glue over it, your glue kind of gives the effect of regular water on top of your, you know, underneath the color that you see in brooks and that. So if you ever go Google a picture, you'll see on many water darker, lighter patches. So I'm just going to now come over with my blue. I didn't really mix in with the black yet, and I'm just going to kind of do little splotches here and there along the water with that blue. And we're going to come back in about half an hour, 40 minutes, because we want that paint to dry before we work with it. So if I get the base of my water down to the pattern I want, I kind of don't just strain it flat out. I like to kind of, as I'm going, make little lines and weaves in it. And you're going to have to come back over here with paint afterwards again, because you're using parchment paper and it's a wax, so like any wax or oily surface, things are going to try to part. But we want to just get the under brush and base down on this first. I'm just taking a quick drink of coffee here, and I'm also going to take my brown paint. Now I'm going to put a little bit down. Get my other paintbrush I was using. I was using this last blue one. So I'll try to pat off a little of this excess water. And I'm going to get the brown and generous. I'm going to come out, and I'm going to try to get this into the blue area, closer to the blue as I can. And you'll come back and touch this up as well with your paint as it dries, because like the blue, it's going to have areas where it's not going to completely go into where you want, because it's parchment paper you're working with. But I find instead of paying, you know, depending where you go, and you can find what's it called, resin water for doing clear water effects, you're paying $10 to $15 depending where it is. You've got to wait several hours for it to work dry before you can work it into some shapes that you want. And you also have to wait at least 24 hours depending how thick you've put it for it to dry. Doing it this way, I can get a pack of glue sticks for $1.25, and I think there's something like 16 glue sticks in the pack for $1.25 Canadian at the dollar store. And I will use probably about 4 or 5 glue sticks. Sometimes I can go up to 6 depending on how thick I'm doing this. And I can get close to the same effect as that using hot glue and have it dry in a huge fraction of the time. So okay, so I was trying to be careful I don't go too much onto the water area. I don't care if I get a little bit because that'll look like banks and muddy banks and that. Okay, so I'm just going to give myself a little room here to work with. All right. And this one I want to try to, I'm not too concerned with if this is straight and flat. I'm just more wanting to get this spread out, because what we're going to do is use hot glue on this as well, on the brown paint. I'll show you it in a moment. I'm just trying to dab up some little corners that are starting to get a little dry that I can try to work with. Alright, so I got my blue down, I've got my brown down. And the reason we're going to come back in a bit and let it dry is you do not want to try to work with hot glue on wet paint. I'll give you a quick example why. Here, hold on, I got my hot glue gun ready to go. I don't even know why I have it plugged in, because I won't need it for a bit. I'm just trying to get some of the excess water off my brush here. And we'll give you an example of why we don't use wet paint. Okay, I'm going to just try to get this flat. I'm not worried about the drying on that it might not be clear. Even better example is seeing that barely any of it on it and how the hot glue reacts with it. So I'm going to reach over, you guys, bring my hot glue gun around. I do have a toothpick lying around here somewhere, and where did it fall off to? Okay, so I got a little bit of paint down on this corner here. You can see that blue blotch, that's our paint that we're going to use. And as I lay down my glue, see on the parchment, no problem. I need to show you on the parchment, no problem. As soon as I go onto the glue here, and I'll just use the back like a pen or new toothpick. I'll just take this back here, okay? So see me moving the glue around here? No issues? Oh, it's going to make a lie out of me. Okay, if this was down, oh, there we go, already. I'm trying to move it. And see how the paint's coming on? It starts not wanting to stick for me proper. I can't manage it. Here I can keep on moving. If I had two hands I could tease and tease. Here it starts to peel off. It won't stick. As soon as I try to go back and touch it, it just peels right up. So yeah, it's not a really good model to try to work on wet paint. So I'm going to let my paint dry for probably about a few hours and then come back, or at least dry enough that I can work with it, because I got huge splotches where I have it with water looking like it's kind of motioned. So, and once that dries, I'll be able to work on it. So on the brown spots that I'm going to be working on, what I'll be doing is once I get the water and teased how I want it, eventually is we'll come over with a thin layer of hot glue in sections on the brown, and we'll work some flock into it, some flock and coarse turf, and once that dries we'll come back over with our spray water and spray the glue area down, and then finish off coating what needs to be coated. So it kind of be an underbrush of highlights, and then we come back over and layer it up. So, and yeah, so we'll be back in a little bit. Now if you guys want to see ultimate hasty and me being impatient, I've got a space heater here. I'm going to hold for about 5-6 minutes. Hopefully this will be enough to dry up the bigger glops that I have on there. Already where I'm seeing it dry on the other ones, or where it'll be dry enough to work, I can see where it's kind of lifted up a bit to give more depth and flow to it. So that'll look really good with the wet hot paint, or with the wet hot paint with the dried hot glue gun effects over it already. I can start seeing this trying to dry through some of this paint. So I might, instead of having to wait 2-3 hours, maybe doing 20 minutes of this will get me dry enough that what I need. Let's crank this up to number 2. So you don't need to watch me do this, but I thought I'd just show you me being hasty, and hence why I called myself the Hasty Train Maker. Alright, so I'm back. This is almost completely dry enough, minus a few little blotchy areas in the middle and the top that I can start working with the glue over it. So, and see what I meant about try to tease it, give it a running watery look with it as you're bringing your brush over, because when your hot glue starts to dry, it's going to be drying clear, so you're going to get to see some of this look underneath it, because we're not going to be going heavy like we do on the other with the glue, like we do on some of the other water and waterfalls that I do. And one other thing that I forgot to mention is you're going to want to have some finely blended turf, or even some coarse and fine blend, but I'm just going to use some fine blend and I'll show you. So I got some on the side of my couch where I'm sitting ready to go, and I'll show you what I'm going to be using it momentarily. Alright, so I'm back. I've got my hot glue. I'm going to do first on my water run just a little thin bead as a guideline starting down, so I know where I'm going to be running my water, and I have a break. So if you're going to have any strands, make sure you bring it onto your blue water. It's just going to melt, those will just melt into your what's the word I'm looking for, into what you're doing with your first layer of water, so it's not going to be seen. And don't worry if you get a bigger glob up, not a big deal. So I got my guideline in. I got another glue stick ready to go here because I'm probably going to need one. And I'm just going to generously go across and apply some hot glue and bring my strand right down my water. I can get another glue stick in here ready to go. And this is where I take my toothpick. I'm going to pick up the phone in a second before this starts to really dry. So I just give a glob right here. Take my toothpick. Oh, this is not the greatest view for you guys. The front view was easier. And I'm just going to spread it around and bring it forward a bit. So I'm just going to take it and spread it forward into my guidelines. Alright, so that's fine there. I'm going to take my next strand, and I'm going to just go on down again. I'm going to start a new guideline that I want to follow. I'm just going to keep on going along that guideline as my bead dies. So I'll come up here. I swear when I try to do videos, every time something pops up and starts. So I'm just going to come down, continue my guideline, bring my little strand in here, and I'm going to just quickly give this a little bit of a little application of glue. Bring my glue gun out of my way. Take my trusty toothpick and just bring it over gently. I'm not worried about any patterns right now. I just want to get this gently going down the Alright, so I'm going to bring my glue gun again. I'm sorry, I was just taking a look, make sure I got everything where I want. Start a new guide. Bring this over, another guideline. And add in some more glue here. Move your glue gun out of the way. Pick up your trusty toothpick. And just gently tease it into your guideline area. Don't worry if it starts pulling up and looking like it's going to different areas. It's just going to settle down with the heat and back in. Now I can come up over As you're looking, you'll see that you are going to have some gaps where the glue pulled back. Don't worry, as you go over with your next layer, that will get covered up. So I'm just trying to make sure as my glue is trying to dry and settle, I get it into areas it's trying to pull back from. There I go. Okay, got another glue stick. Might need another glue stick in a moment. I've already got my guidelines for this area, so I'm just going to glob another glob of glue here. Trusty little stick. Pull it into the guidelines and bring it out and fan it. So this is where I'm going to end my water down here, so I'm just going to try to bring it out in a fan motion. And I'm trying to pull this out for one reason, because I want you to be able to see something when I switch my camera around. Because right now, as the hot glue is drying, you can see, you can't really see where the glue and the paint start and end. It kind of looks like the glue is painted right now, but it's actually not. Look how that's showing the, so as I come down here at the end of this and I lift up, I've been pulling down. You can see where I stopped painting and where I continued my water through. Let me flip the camera around. You see how that hot glue here ends and has that shine underneath? Now you can see better how I went darker in the middle than on the sides with the light, but that'll get mixed in and blended with the what's going to be in the brown. So I'm going to come back with pulling over. I let this dry a little bit. See how you got some flow motions here? And like I said, where you see those cracks and holes, they're going to get filled the next application over. Alright, you can see the flow and how the paint underneath gives a watery effect to it without, and you have to dry, because if you do this wet and it's still wet enough that you can work with, but just not wet enough to absorb or not absorb the paint, is you start getting that hot glue mixing in with the paint as you're pulling it and stretching it out, and it gets actually mixed in with the hot glue coming up too. So if you're going for the effect I have for my video where you actually paint the hot glue, that works perfect. Where you're trying to go for this clear on top and paint underneath, not good. So we'll turn this around, go back with this next application, get a bunch of these bubbles on the sides gone and mixed in, and we'll be right back. Okay, as I was talking and that, I kind of forgot to do something here, so we're just going to take my other glue stick, get it ready. We're going to go over a few spots on the side, and I know where I'm already going to go with this. Is some of my areas that didn't go too well for the cracks on the side blending in, so I'm just going to drop my hot glue there, some hot glue right here really quick, a little bit on this corner, and here, and I've got to move quick now. I want some of this drying up, but not too quick. So as that's, I'm mixing that in and blending it, and I want it, you know, kind of covering those holes up. What I'm going to do is, and I can see where this is wet, I'm going to tease this stuff right here, make it come down. I'm going to take my turf I was talking about that you wanted. I'm only going to get a little bit on my spoon, and I'm going to go gently where I just kind of went over with the hot glue. And yes, I tell you this doesn't work usually well. It'll pick up the flock, but whatever flock this does pick up just ends up being pulled into the water and kind of looking like it's part of the, so I'm just going to quickly sprinkle this over areas I redid, and then I'm just going to blow this off. The good glue. Okay, so yeah, the good glue where I don't want this on, and I don't want to see it. And this is getting stuck in the crevice here. There, that got out. What I'm going to do here is I want in water beds, and if I had some little ballast around, I don't know where I put my ballast, but if I had some ballast near me, I sprinkle some ballast too over in some areas, do the same thing. And once this dries in and goes over, and as I come over it, all it does is it gives that water some texturized look underneath, looking, because when you look into a stream, you see rocks, you see some grassy, you see mud, like you see some, not grass, but you see like some water shrub and stuff like that, moss, and that's what this kind of gives the appearance of underneath the glue with the paint. And that's why I was saying you can take some coarse turf too instead of this, or even on top of that, and sprinkle it. But when you do the coarse turf, you want to get it in really quick as that glue's on, and not what I'm doing. And you take your toothpick and just kind of roll it over to get it into that glue, because your next application is less chances you're going to be pulling it all together. When you're doing it with only a bit of flock here, just a little bit, and that's why you use just little bits of it, it's not so much of the same deal. Okay, so this should be good enough that I can come over. So I want to blend in those beads I had on the sides here, like you see right in here with the bottom of my gun. I want to get all those beads covered up with my next application, next and final application here. So we're just going to set the phone. We're going to take your hot glue gun, make sure you've got enough glue in, and I'm just going to generously apply this, because I'm going to want to be pulling this down. I'm going to keep my strands going on the water here, and you want to go quick here, and you want to blend in your sides. Now use that heat to blend in your sides, and as you're doing this, you can start giving your water some teasing going forward. So get your blends covered in your sides. If you can't get them all, don't worry, because when you come back over with to do your hot glue for your next section on the brown, you can hide some of those in, and already you can see where that grass is underneath looks pretty snappy. So I'm just going to come on the inside my guides here. I kind of discovered doing this by accident. I was trying to do some little beads of water just coming onto some paint that I did before on a board, and it wasn't working, so I started trying to pull it like this to make it do what I want to do, and I noticed, oh cow, that looks pretty damn snappy. And as you're coming down and bringing your hot glue in areas, and I want to now come back over a few areas here and tease and bring it up. What I like to do too to get some breaks is I like to take a big glob, get it going up, then I like to start bringing it and just doing twirls to start gluing or draw or hardening. Give it a little bit more of a twirl, give it a little blow, and pull off, and I'll give you a breaking up in the water effect, and you can even twirl it a bit more. So, and I'm just going to draw some wave lines in here. I want this looking like it's on a motion. So if you got any areas like this that happen to bead up on you from the strands, don't be afraid to come underneath to the very end and pull, because what I'll do is I'll give kind of a wavy water line motion. I like to just come over here and get any possible strands that are going to be problems in the future that I can cut off in the long run at the end. So I'm just looking to make sure I've got, come out here and try to break some of these strands up before I can't find any of them. And if you're going to do a second or a third application because you don't like the way it's looking yet, don't worry about strands. Strands just get it hid and covered up into the melt in. Or if you don't like one area and you just want to go a bit more, just add a little glue over it, and what happens is the heat of the glue being applied will help melt off the area you don't like so you can rework it. Okay, so I'm just going to pull this. I don't want this really worked much. So I'm just going to pull it down. Make sure I get into my any grooves. By now you should see grooves that you need to fill in. And I'm just taking my stick and I'm running across areas as it dries. And part of that brings up the paint and gives kind of like a white wavy effect on your stream. So I'm just trying to pull some off on the side here to cover. Don't, like I said, don't worry too much if you can't get all your bead in on the side blended in, because when you come over this brown side right over here, like I'll show you closer in some areas, the beading like up in here, down here didn't fully blend in. When you come over with your hot glue to do your side over here, that'll get hidden. So give me a second, I'll actually show you how this train under here looks that I added and just sprinkled in this little stuff right here. So let me turn this around. Okay, so here we are flipped over. As you can see some of the green in here, and it's given the depth and the texture. Don't worry yet, I see some strands. Once I get this back turned around, I'll quickly go over and get the strands before I go for the next side. Any areas you see like that dried up area with the strand coming off in the middle, don't worry too much about something like that because it's going to get hid in. Same with the strands on the side over here. The only strands you really need to worry about is coming in on the water, like over here on this corner where it's sticking up. Right over in here, but that's where you come with your toothpick. You come and you pull. You see how that the paint underneath here gives it depth. As soon as we get the sides done, and it's not so messy looking, and I cut off this front here and clean it up, because I just want you to see the difference between the clear and the paint. It'll look much cleaner. Alright, so the next stage that I do here is if I'm using really good parchment paper and it's one that's very durable and sticks, I don't have to worry about doing a glue on the side. I can actually just flock in and around here. But this is really crappy dollar store parchment, and I tried something about a week or so ago as I was doing another tutorial. As this was peeling back, I wanted to try something and it worked pretty well, so I'm going to show you what I did. So I'm going to come here with my hot glue and I'm just going to be going, and I'm not going to go all along what I drew out on my board or on my parchment, because I'm going to cut out and around some of it after when it's done. But right now I'm just going to thinly come with my hot glue, move it into the water scene. I want to get it onto the edges. Okay, I'm just going to lightly bring it, and I'm only doing this here in little sections. I'm going to take my turf, and this is just an underbrush because you're going to come back after everything and reapply some, but this is just doing an underbrush here. I'm going to apply it a little thicker in areas where I have it merging into the grass, because what happens here is when you peel it off, you actually can the parchment paper doesn't break when you lift it up and just crumble and crack. The hot glue here helps give you a bond. And I'm going to just come over with a little burnt grass and accented in areas. And the reason I'm telling you to do this quick is as the hot glue's drying, it's going to bond a bunch of this. So I'm going to come over the next area. I'm just globbing it. I'm not trying to do any particular patterns or anything. I just want to be able to get this thin out, pushed into the water edge. Oh, come on. Oh, I don't have time to mess around with that. Doing this, you've got to be quick. You've got limited time to play around with this. So I'm trying to just get this thin and thin it out and pull it, because this is just an underbase. I want this mixed in with my, oh, someone's messaging. Hopefully that's not good, messing with my camera. So I just want this being able to blend in with those water edges. Okay, so quickly get my green going down on there again. And this is why I said don't worry about the strands on the sides. They're going to get covered up. This is how they get covered up. And areas where you put your grass in here in the water and covered it up, feel free to go a little heavier over there. Because all that does is it looks like your grass is coming in to meet where you were. Oh yes, I want to give a little bit of highlight of burnt grass on here. Keep the pattern going. Get low on burnt grass. Gotta make some supply runs in the new year. Just too much, so I'll just blow that off in an area. And you're going to be sealing this down with your PVA glue, so something I should have told you guys too, as you're coming and you're flocking over with your flock onto the glue, leave a bit of your glue at the end untouched. That way when you go over the next part, you're not pulling in a bunch of flock with you, and you have, because the flock won't cover up, you have to sit there and wait for it to dry enough. So see how I said you're going to just end up blending that in with your water? There we go. So I'm just blending that into my water scene. I put down a little too much glue here. So I'm just going to try to spread it out without wasting too much. Come back to my block. Block over. Here I'm done on the edge, so I don't care if I come all the way to the end of the hot glue, and this is an area where I did a little more, or some of the grass coming into the water, so I can be a little generous here. I'm just continuing the flow pattern. And already it's looking pretty darn good. I'll show you in a few moments. And now I got my two colors down, I'm going to just come over with a bit of a lighter grass and just here and there kind of sprinkle to give a third. So let me turn the camera around. Okay, and this is just my first going over here. See how I have some of the green in on the water already? So as I'm flocking over and in, areas that I added the green in underneath, I'm just coming closer in. And the reason I use the brown underneath is areas that I won't be able to get into as good. If I don't want to have to get in there as fine, all that looks like is some muddy bank underneath. And the reason I was saying I don't always come fully out to the paint here is I'm eventually going to want that coming off around where the glue is. So once everything's dry and ready to go, I can just bend the, this crappy parchment back and peel around the edges and get it off. So see how we got the strands right like this on the side here? Not anymore. And any that you see like right in here, you can see some strands. That's on where I don't have any hot glue, so that'll end up being cut off amongst the other And once I have this cut off, even some of these little strands underneath will just look like water waves. So yeah, I'm going to put the phone over, finish the other side. Actually, I don't even think you need to watch me finish the other side, and we'll be back once the other side's done. Alright, so I'm back here with the one side done, both sides done. I'm going to show you something. I wasn't paying attention earlier, and where's my finger coming in here? You see this gouge from my finger in? All that, I kind of forgot to do something I told you guys not to do, was to flock. Don't flock all the way to the base, and then start gluing from where your flock is down, trying to tease, because it won't stick. I wasn't paying attention. I looked up over at my sports highlights, thought I was further than I was, or wasn't as far as I was with my spoon. And yeah, oops, so I'll probably, once that dries, I'll come in, glue in there, push it into the glue, and apply some more and block over it. As you can see on here, we pretty much still have some areas that you can see glistening, not many, but some. And that's okay right now. I wasn't trying to completely cover it. I told you that at the very beginning. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over with my wet water spray, PVA water spray, on top of the flock here, seal it in, and at the same time put some coarse turf over it. And if I had some more brush, I'm completely out of shrub brush, so I need to get some more. You could shrub brush along there, put some stones, texturize it as you want. So here, let me flip the camera around and we'll texturize it a bit. So I got my PVA water. I'm going to come up from above and mist it. Oh, let's make sure my hole here is completely taken care of. There we go. I'm going to mist over my project, and if I can get my water to ever work for me on camera. This never happens on. Okay, so we'll come back here. I'm going to let that go here. I'm going to come with my, and all I did is gave it a generous coating. Once it dries, it's going to come back to that nice flock look that we had prior. And oops, one of my alarms just finished going off and cut me off. Yeah, so I'm going to come up here with my coarse turf. I'm just going to shake it up a bit. Just want to come with a few lighter colors. I'm not going to come over with any dark color. I'm just going to sprinkle it on little bits of it and let the water spray that I used to lock down this part lock down. And because it's wet, it looks really, really dark on here, but like everything, wet product always looks dark. And that's why you always come back with a final video picture view of a dry product and see all the colors dried and blended in. Okay, so I'm being careful not to get any of this really in on the water. Any that does, just take your spoon or your toothpick and push it off. I personally have a toothbrush I use afterwards where everything's dry, and I come over the water with my toothbrush when the whole project's done, and I scrape off any excess that I happen to get on there. I'm not trying to get this all over. I'm just trying to get a little bit here and there for the coarse turf, because once this all completely dries, you're going to see areas before you cut this off and you start peeling back. Don't peel it right off right away. Don't peel this off right away around the sides here. Like, I mean, as peel off, don't break it right off. Just peel it back a bit and you'll see the glue when it dries where you need to go up and over. Before you do it, you can touch that up. And here, let's flip the camera around. Alright, so here we are with our wet product on the middle of drying. That most of that green is underneath on the bottom. I I said, any, like this little area where I get some of the green on here, I'll just come over with a toothbrush and scrape it off. But you can see the dark blue and the lighter blues, and as you tease and make water lines with your water, you can see it looks like running motion. So once this has got a toothbrush with everything off of here, it's going to look pretty good. 98% of that grass, swampy foliage, not swampy, mossy, grassy foliage is now what was underneath the glue that I put in there earlier. And over it, there's only a little bit on top. I've cleared most of it off with a a cotton ball. I went over and cleaned off a lot of that excess. And then I went over with my Q-tip. And this was pretty much my last. When I went over it, wasn't too much coming off of it. As you can see, as I'm going down here, not much more coming off of that. So that's pretty much because the stuff I wanted underneath looks like it's more up top than it is. You can do this with some more coarse turf. You can do this with lichen, actually, if you want to take lichen and go under on your first base and just have it kind of the glue sit on top of it and kind of surround it, and then let it dry. And then when you come over your next coating or two, it'll cover it completely up and make it look like it's underneath the water, yet not unrealistic. Because like, look where my water is running down here, and most of that looks like it's just sitting on top of there, but it's actually covered by the glue. And you gotta see the different color paints too, of blues on the paint and the white from the drying glue will give you the red. So I'm still just letting it dry. I kind of cut around and took it off the wet paint parchment. Again, I will be fixing up and cutting off this area all across here and making it all one color. And I added in the white for the snow effect because I'll end up adding this to my Christmas village next year, whether it's my World War II village or my regular Christmas village. I'll probably add it in there because I have no other real place to put it, minus the fact that I was doing a tutorial and don't see myself doing any dioramas anytime soon that I could use this. So we'll be back when this is dry and cut apart and ready to go. Alright, so I'm back. I didn't let this completely dry, but I want you to get the gist of this, of how it kind of can blend into your board. I left this piece right here because this is where I know I need to go back and hot glue a little strip in here eventually. As soon as you see your water, just kind of, your scenery will blend in. If you want to lay this down before, you just tack it down with some hot glue onto your base. So, and lay it down straight and put it where you want. Here's the one I did in another tutorial. Same concept, except for I kind of put a little more detail in on the side. But as you can see, this is still the same kind of concept of what you're doing right here. Yeah, so thank you for watching and hope to see you in the next tutorial. Have a great one, guys.